Welcome to another episode of the MMA Lockcast. I'm your host, Matt Breed, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on Twitter at MMALOTN. This week we're going over UFC Vegas 30, headlined by Cyril Gane going up against Alexander Volkov, easily Gane's stiffest test to date. And we finally get to, not finally, we get to continuously find out how good this guy is or how good he could actually be. And Volkov is definitely the guy to put in front of him to recognize whether this guy has what it takes to actually make a crack at the heavyweight slot. So for those of you joining me, you guys obviously know that this live version is a little bit more catered to the chat in terms of going through the card from bottom to top, and then at the ending of every single breakdown, seeing what the chat has to say, and just letting you guys get involved. The pre-recorded version of this podcast will actually drop later this evening. I'm just finishing processing it, have all the breakdowns pretty much recorded and ready to go. Just gotta process it, put it through my editing program and all that stuff, and that will drop later tonight. That's a little bit more in depth and obviously not as all over the place, considering that I'm talking to the chat here as well. The first thing I do want to let you guys know is that if you guys are commenting about a specific matchup, please be talking about the one that I'm talking about at the time. Otherwise, I'll be pretty much ignoring any of the comments talking about the main event, co-main event, whatever the fuck. I want to talk about the fight at hand, and then we'll move on down the chain, and then I'll answer any questions, comments, or suggestions you guys have for every single matchup as I go through them. One thing I want to do right off the bat, I don't know if my guy Danny Legs is in here yet, but I do have a shot bet that I need to pay up on. And I'll definitely go through my last event real quick after this, but I do have a shot bet. So my shot bet was, this is how it came about. For some reason, Danny Legs, my guy Legs the Capper, I believe he had a bet with Diehard MMA, Mr. Clint, and he lost the bet. And he took a shot, and then he nominated me. He wanted to go out there and pretty much put a shot bet on the line for me. And he had proposed that we do Casey O'Neill versus Lara Procopio. He was on the Procopio side, and I truly expected Casey O'Neill to be my least confident prediction on the actual on that fight night. And it ended up being 3 out of the 12 bets that I actually ended up with 3. Sorry. I only went 3 out of 12 on my predictions last week, and that was the one that I got right. The one that I ended up going with him now is the one that I actually ended up going with now was the over 2.5, which was my lock of the night play, the over 2.5 in the Jandiroba and Murata fight. And I decided to go with that for him because he had actually had a little bit of money on Jandiroba by sub. So that's what we ended up settling on. And obviously you guys know that didn't go too well for me. So let me pay up on my bet. I'm not sure if Legs is in here, but I got my Captain Morgan nice and chilled right out of the freezer. And I actually am going with, so one thing that I like to do at a lot of the places, I know this is kind of cliche, but one thing that I like to do when I go to different cities is get shot glasses. And this one is actually a Boston Strong shot glass. I'm sure you guys can see it. Nice little shot glass. That's from when I went to Boston, obviously, for the McGregor and Seaver card with my wife. That was actually one of the first ever trips that we went together. Within 3 or 4 months of dating, we road tripped from Toronto all the way down to Boston. It was like an 8-9 hour road trip. Fun times. Then again, it wasn't the best on the way back because it was in January. It was snowing, so it was a little bit of a bitch, but still a great trip. So I am a man of my word. I will pay up on my debt. I'm not much of a drinker. You guys know me. If you guys have been following me for a while, I prefer the marijuanas, but I will do a shot bet. If somebody in here knows Danny Legs, please do message him and let him know that I'm paying up right now. I'm not sure if he actually is aware that I'm doing it right now, but I hate shots. I hate it, but I'm a man of my word, and I will do it. So cheers, Danny Legs. I'll get you next time. Maybe I'll do another shot bet with you for this weekend's card, but we'll figure it out. But here we go. Oh. That almost went down the wrong pipe. wish I got something flavored to chase that down with. God, that was nasty. There you go, Danny Legs. I've paid up on my shot bet. Ugh, that is disgusting. Again, not a drinker. I am far removed from my college days. All right. I am let's get into the episode. First of all, you know what? Let's see what the chat is saying first while I get this taste out of my mouth. Ugh. David Mashak in the chat. What's going on, my brother? Joseph Nussbaum is saying Suplock had terrible luck last week on that over 2.5. Yeah. Again, 2 back-to-back weeks where an arm break pretty much messes up, but it is what it is. Beltbreader in the chat. Appreciate you coming through. Kane Gomez, Dan Goldstein. Hey, brother, a few good spots on this card that are playable for sure. Yep. Definitely do like this card a lot better than I do last week. Champino Sports Picks is saying, how lock? How are you, buddy? What's up with the dislikes? MMA Fraud Parlay King is but probably. Do we got 7 dislikes already? Yeesh. Maybe he's creating 70 different accounts to fucking dislike my videos. Apparently it's lagging. A Loomis is saying it's not lagging. All good. Champino Sports Picks 3-12 on predictions. You're one of my favorite cappers, but some of you on why I should listen to you and not other people. I'm not gonna sell you on shit. If you guys know me, you guys know that I have some decent reads, but last week's picks were just not good. I don't think anybody had a good night, to be honest. But again, I don't want to put myself up against other people. I'm holding myself to my own standard, and that's not the type of standard that I have. I believe right now I'm 65% on the year on picks, just straight predictions. And that was definitely not a 65% type night. Again, 3-12 on predictions, not a good night for sure. But better does owe someone on Brandon Case channel $20. That sucks. You just got that Mickey does Wi-Fi, of course. Champino Sports Picks saying smash yourself with that bottle. I hope not. All right, PFB. I had to do it. I am definitely a lightweight. Me and my buddy took 8 shots and started 20 minutes. Yeah, I'm definitely not a drinker. Definitely not. DJ saying that spice for sure. Baby Yoda picks or bets in the chat. What's going on, my brother? A Loomis is saying I'm the same way, only Fireball. Mario Barrel is saying Captain and Cokes. Let's go. One more. Hell no. Definitely not doing one more. Mark Palm is saying Volkov is going to surprise a lot of people. Can't wait to get down to that breakdown. Vincent Vanderspeen, reminding you guys, please do like that video. Let's outweigh the people that are trying to bring your boy down. Oh, okay. We do have a troll in here. Let's get your ass out of here. What a pussy piece of shit. All right. Tajik Bay in the house. Appreciate you stopping by. Andrew Marchenko letting y'all know whoever said he took 8 shots in 20 minutes and once more is lying like a motherfucker. Exactly. That's why he's out of here. Piece of shit. All right. Let's not wait too much longer. Where is it? There it is. All right. As we always do, we don't hide from Ellis. We talk. Oh, we got my guy Alex Ramirez in the chat. What's going on, brother? Yeah, we don't hide from our losses, is what it is. Bad event last weekend. That's 2 bad events in a row where we're pretty much getting reverse swept. So last week we had the lock that I play was Jandaroba Murata over 2.5. I took 4 unit shot on that at -200. And it was looking good in that first round in terms of Murata getting out of submissions, staying very calm, staying very patient. But in the process of defending that said armbar, she gets caught in something and doesn't tap, but still mangles up her arm. And, halfway through that second round, as she's holding her arm in that weird position, I was definitely telling myself this fight is probably over. As soon as they stop the fight or end of the round or something, a doctor's going to come in, check the shit out, and it's probably going to get stopped. And that's exactly what happened. So, bad card for me overall. Like I said, dog of the night play, obviously, David Grant minus a unit and a half there. Good start, and then he started to fall off. Credit to Marlon Vera continuously making improvements. So good win for him there. I was kind of happy with the plus 165 that I got there, but an L is an L, and a cash ticket, is not a cash ticket if you don't cash it. You know what I mean? So an L there. But yeah, all in all, like I said, pretty bad event for me. 3 out of 12 on picks. Not to mention, my 3 top spots for lock of the night plays was what I just played, the Jandiroba Murata over 2.5. Second one was Joaquim Silva. I felt quite confident about him, but his chin didn't feel confident in himself. He ends up losing relatively quickly to Rickland. And then the third one, which is, obviously hindsight 2020, this is the one that I probably should have played, was the Rocky Martinez and Josh Ferguson over 1.5. Missed out on that too. But what do? You know what I mean? I've been doing this game for almost 4 years now. You just got to move on, take the L's on the chin, show off the L's just as much as you show off the dubs. And that's how you get respect within the community. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. So, all in all, bad night, minus 5.5 units on a bit of a tough run now with 2 back-to-back losing events. I believe that's 14 out of the last 18 events we've cashed, but still bad losses. But we move on. We keep the train rolling, and that's how we do things over here. Let's see what the chat is saying, and then we'll move things along onto the first fight. Jens Medeiros, the GOAT. About better saying he puked. I definitely didn't puke. George Medixopoulos saying she pulled a Jamal Hill special. Well, she showed a lot more. Well, she showed a lot more fight than Jamal Hill, right? I had a feeling that she would get at least caught in one submission, but I thought that she'd be able to get out, which she did. But then in doing so, she got her arm mangled. Harmon's asking, have I been able to catch any of the Euro tournaments? I haven't been watching them, but I've been betting on them, telling my guy Grinding Eddie, and we've been absolutely cashing tickets. So it's all good. I'm happy with that. Austin Johnson, for people who haven't learned from John Robo or Paul Craig, betting sub is super risky because TKOs are always possible, but just bet them to finish if you want a better line. It works the other way too, right? The one that always comes to my mind, the only time I've really been spurred by something like this is when Tyron Woodley fought Darren Till. I put I forgot what the line was, but I thought it was a crazy line for Woodley to win by KO, and then he goes out there and pulls a fucking submission. Or another one that comes to mind is OSP against Alonzo Menafield. Everybody thought he'd get the sub, but he goes out there and knocks him out. So yeah, there is absolutely something to be taken from what my guy Austin Johnson is saying here. Sometimes it's better just to play the inside the distance and not to get too greedy, unless the TKO line is plus 200 and the sub line, which you think is being overlooked, is like plus 1,000. Then sure, go ahead, take a little bit of a sprinkle. But if they're relatively around the same range, then maybe the inside the distance spot is the way to go. All right. Tantum Singh, Diego Lima destroyed my parlay. Yeah, I would not have trusted him that night. Picked him to win, but by no means was I gonna hop on that. What would you say is the most impressive performance for a 40-plus-year-old of age performance? Matt Brown versus Lima, or Spider Silva versus Juan Chavez Jr., whatever the fuck his name is. Got to be this Silva fight, right? To go into somebody else's sport and beat them that way. I thought that was impressive. Shout out to my guy, Nicholas West, with the $10 donation. Much appreciated, my brother. I truly, truly appreciate the love and support that you continuously shell out on a week-to-week basis. Bout Better saying Craig was a plus 200 dog. Yes, he was. All right. Let's not waste too much more time. Let's get right into the card. Let me pull up the card here. First and foremost, we got Yancy Medeiros going up against Damir Hadzovic. And so these guys were actually scheduled to fight, I believe, at the beginning of May. and Hadzovic had to pull out due to health concerns. I'm not 100% sure if it was due to COVID or not, but on the day of the fight, he had to pull out, and now we get the rematch roughly about a month or so later. Still, I believe the fight is going to play out just as I predicted it last time around, but if I'm not mistaken, last time around, it was actually around minus 120, minus 115-ish for Hadzovic. Now it seems like there's more love coming in on Hadzovic, making him a minus 140 favorite. I do like what he brings to the table. In terms of his striking, very powerful striker, good combinations, but his kryptonite has always been the takedowns. And when guys are successful with taking him down time and time again, like Alan Patrick and Christos Giagos, even in his last fight, Hanato Moicano quickly takes him down and subs him. Usually that's the best way for his opponents to beat him. Medeiros, decent jiu-jitsu game, but I don't think that his takedowns and grappling as a whole is good enough to ground Hadzovic and then take advantage of him by trying to go for a submission of some sort. I think he might be able to land a takedown or two, but I do think that he's going to struggle to keep Hadzovic there. And then once this fight is on the feet, I think that Hadzovic will be able to kind of pretty much outpoint him and really land the much more impactful shots on the feet. Medeiros, a little bit more wild and loopy with the shots, a little bit, I would say not as trustworthy on the feet. I do think that Hadzovic has the advantage. Medeiros might be able to match him in terms of volume, but outside of that, I think the impactful and more better shots are going to be coming from Hadzovic ultimately, which is why I'm picking Hadzovic to win this fight. And I actually think that Hadzovic could finish him. The most notable win from Medeiros has got to be his Cowboy Oliveira win from a couple of years ago, which set him up for a number one title a main event slot against Cowboy Cerrone, and then he ends up getting finished at the ending of that first round, and then hasn't really looked the best since then either. But I do like Hadzovic in the spot to go out there and TKO him, probably in the second round. George Medixopoulos is saying De La Rosa by TKO plus 1200 was a nice one. That definitely was. My guy Royale in the chat. What's going on, brother? Tajik what the dono. Appreciate the $4.99 donation, my brother. Keep up the good work, Lock, from one goat to another. I appreciate it. Tam Toom calling him the free money parlay goat. George Medixopoulos, it's as if Hadzovic gets a brain freeze when taken down. Either way, Medeiros is not the guy to keep him there. I agree. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. I don't want to spend too long if people don't really want to talk about a certain fight. Next up, and the reason why I brought out the Boston Strong shot glass. Shout out Boston. Is from my man Charles Rosa. And since you guys are watching this thing live, I'll let you guys know right off the bat. Charles Rosa is actually my lock of the night play for this week, and as I truly believe that Justin Jaynes is not a UFC caliber fighter, and I think that Rosa has the chops to go out there and beat this guy. So let's just go over how many times I've been successful in terms of Justin Jaynes fights. I was successful in backing Gavin Tucker as the lock of the night play that night, cashed that roughly as a minus 140-ish favorite. Then the next fight, Gabriel Benitez, another spot, minus 150, minus 160, I believe. I could be off on that line regardless. Cashed that ticket as well. The next one, I actually ended up backing Justin Jaynes in round one at plus 600 against Devontae Smith, who was coming off an extended layoff after his first ever knockout loss to Kama Worthy the year prior, not to mention a ruptured Achilles. Everything seemed to be going against Devontae Smith, yet he was still a minus 345 favorite going into that fight against Jaynes, and I felt like I needed to take advantage of that plus 600 round one prop, as that was probably the only way that Jaynes was going to win the fight. Blows up in my face, but I'm happy with the value that I was able to get off of that ticket, even though I ended up losing. But in this spot, I think that Rosa only been knocked out once in his career by Shane Burgos in a fight that was very back and forth, and both guys were landing significant shots that was hurting the other. I think that Rosa has the durability and the striking technique to go out there and kind of stay away from the telegraphed big shots of Justin Jaynes, land the body shots, land the accumulative strikes to start slowing down Justin Jaynes, and then start taking off afterwards. With his own approach. He can go for takedowns if you'd like. I think he has the chops to go out there and submit Justin Jaynes. And the only like real kryptonite that we've seen Rosa have to succumb to over his last few fights was when guys were taking him down and just grinding him out from on top. But, you know, a guy like Bryce Mitchell with such good jiu-jitsu was able to kind of control him the way that he was. And Rosa still stayed out of those twisters and all those other submission attempts. And then even in the last fight, you know, Derek Minner goes out there and out grapples him for 15 minutes. And a lot of people just completely throw Rosa to the side now, which is why I believe he's only a minus 170 favorite in this spot, where I believe he should be closer to minus 350, minus 400. Like, I give him an 80% shot of winning this fight, but he's going to go out there and I think he's going to cruise. I think that he has all the chops to survive that first round against Justin Jaynes and then really start to put it on him. The other approach that I don't mind people taking here is the under 2.5 around that minus 125 range. But my only concern is if Rosa plays it a little bit too disciplined and just outpoints Jaynes over 15 minutes rather than finishing him later on in the fight, as I expect he should do, as I believe that's the most likely outcome. I do think that Rosa, you know, will light him up on the feet. Burps when you feel the liquor after the yuck. I should have done it after the stream. What was I thinking? Regardless, yeah, Rosa, good striker. Like we said, when he fights in the southpaw stance, that's when you see him come up with that like karate, you know, Wonder Boy type style. And then when he's orthodox is when he goes to his like, you know, legitimate boxing skill stance where he has a high guard. So it's interesting to see him kind of switch stances and switch styles every time he switches the stances. I think that's going to cause Jaynes some issues. I think again, I really don't think Jaynes is that good. I think he is the epitome of a knockout or bust type of fighter. And I think that's going to showcase once again here against Charles Rosa, who should be able to take whatever Jaynes is throwing at him and then eventually start to take over as Jaynes starts to slow down. So I'm hoping that Rosa does invest in the body early in that first round to start slowing Jaynes down, just as we saw him in his prior fights. And I think that after that, he should be able to take advantage, you know, whether it's a club and sub situation, take him down, whatever it is. I think that Rosa will be able to find a submission at some point in this fight. I'm going to call the second round, and I do really like Rosa to win this fight via second round submission. It doesn't look like we have legitimate odds yet on the oh, look, they just dropped him. Thank God. Rosa by sub is plus 210. Ain't that a bitch? I was hoping for something better. Rosa by KO is plus 615. Not that bad either. He could get a dominant position on top and rain down some TKOs or some ground and pound as well. Rosa inside the distance plus 145. So we just talked about this earlier. All right, let's see what the chat is saying, and then we'll move the thing along. About better saying Yancy too risky. I do believe is a little bit too risky. I don't see many dogs winning on this card, to be honest. But yeah, Yancy is definitely not one of my dogs. My guy, Robot Chicken Wings, what up, Block? I'm not mad at the bad picks when you warm up. Haters, watch up. Salute. Exactly. Appreciate it. About better Jaynes, no defense. I agree. A-Loom is Rosa for me by sub. I agree. But Rosa mediocre. About better is off this one. I think mediocre is more than enough to beat a guy like Jaynes, to be honest. What up, Robot Chicken Wings? UCF Rob saying they both are terrible. Nobody's worse than Justin Jaynes, to be honest. Eric, not for profit Morano, saying when I am scouting fighters with a few losses, it's funny how often I see Rosa as one of those few losses. Yeah, Rosa is sneaky, man. I think people are just throwing him away because that Derek Minner loss, but you know, he was active in that fight off of his back, and you know, Derek Minner is a high level submission threat himself. I don't think that Jaynes will be able to take that same approach and beat him that way. Tajipe with another dono. Appreciated. Justin Jaynes is free money. You're welcome. Sincerely, the Ghost. But Barry saying Rosa sucks. Definitely not as much as Mr. Jaynes, though. Austin Johnson, I'm not so impressed by Rosa's last fight. I kind of want to bet Jaynes here. If you think Jaynes is going to do the same thing that Derek Minner did, all power to you, my brother. Waleed Raid saying Rosa is washed. Again, I'll take a watch fighter against Justin Jaynes any day, and Rosa has shown me good enough skills. Eric says Jaynes has 3 minutes. I agree. Waleed Raid saying Rosa has really slowed down in his last couple of fights. It's tough, right? Stylistically, there were much different fights than what he's going to be going up against with with Jaynes here. Honestly, I think it plays out similar to the Kevin Aguilar fight, but Aguilar being much better than Justin Jaynes and telegraphs his shots much better. Doesn't telegraph his shots as much as Jaynes. I think it's going to be a lot easier for Rosa to navigate those waters and find his spots. Balbetter saying he puked. I did not puke. It was a disgusting burp. Big J is saying, I think Rosa will drown him and get a late sub. I agree. Felt better. I did not puke, I promise. Dijipe with another dono. Jesus, my guy. You're paying my wages now. Appreciate it. James, by decision is even more free money. God damn. YBB, was he formerly known as the Boston Strangler? I don't think so. I always thought it was Boston Strong, but I could be wrong. I like Fili. Okay, we'll talk about that after. George Medixopoulos saying, well, how's the wrestling of Jaynes? It used to be good. He just doesn't use it anymore. But even if he decides to go out there and wrestle, I just don't think his top game is good enough. And I don't think his cardio is good enough to deal with the relentless offensive onslaught that Charles Rosa has off of his back. If Jaynes is successful in getting this fight to the ground, I am happy with that. I do not mind because he's going to have to work his butt off to try and secure a top position over Rosa. Nicholas West, Rosa should handle this business. I agree. Hunter Silver saying my dog's name is Frodo Jaynes. Robot Chicken Wings, I'm not sold on Violent Hero. MD Valiev is going to march down. Barcelos, we'll talk about that fight very, very soon. Andrew Marchenko is saying Boston Strong is Boston Salmon, I believe. No, I swear Charles Rosa is Boston Strong. Yeah. Even his typology nickname reinforces that. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. We got Julia Avila going up against Yulia Stoliarenko. There we go. We got minus 345 on Avila and plus 285 on Stoliarenko. If you guys remember, they were scheduled to fight back in March, and that's where we had the debacle with Stoliarenko falling off the scale into the backdrop and just did not look good. They continuously tried getting her to step on the scale, but she just could not handle herself. It was almost as bad as Ryan Benoit a couple weeks afterwards. But now they're scheduled to fight 3 months later. It seems like Stoliarenko is fully Stoliarenko is fully healed, ready to go. Hopefully she dieted better in the lead up to her fight week, and she's able to cut the weight properly so that she can step on the scale without completely fainting and falling off. However, I still believe this fight is going to go very much the same. I'm not a big fan of Julia Avila up at that high chalk at minus 345. A lot of her success is going to have to come from bullying Stoliarenko, and some of it's going to come from taking her down and really testing that black belt from either woman. And with how active Stoliarenko is off of her back, 8 out of her 9 wins coming via armbar, you got to believe that Avila is going to have to mind her P's and Q's very much here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Avila just try to take this fight into the striking realm and just try to overpower, bully her, and intimidate her in that sense, and possibly get a finish, which is why the under 2.5 actually intrigues me. Most spots have it around plus 135, plus 155, but I do really like that spot, as I do think that both girls are live for a finish. Avila, obviously, very underwhelming performance against Sajara Eubanks in her loss, and I think that she should come back stronger from it. Apparently, she had a lot of issues with her home gym. Excuse me. I don't recall where exactly she's from, but they kicked her out of the gym. She made her own gym now with her husband, and that's where she's training out of. She did spend a week or so, I believe, over there at James Krause's camp while she's trying to figure out what's going on. But I truly believe that she's actually just, self-taught at this point. It should be enough for her to beat a girl like Stoliarenko, who just, really does rely on getting her opponents down and getting a jiu-jitsu game going. If you guys remember the Yana Kunitskaya fight, that was one instance where we saw, not something we see often, a fighter cage and clinch fucking an opponent, but their opponent trying to drop down and trying to pull guard. And you see Kunitskaya just kind of holding her up with her double underhooks and just kind of beating her up there, just staying busy enough with the dirty boxing, the dirty Muay Thai, the knees on the Charlie horses, all that type of stuff, but doing any and everything possible to stay away from the ground game. There were instances where Kunitskaya did end up getting a takedown, but she seemed to be very cognizant, very disciplined in that spot, and never really overextended in terms of allowing Stoliarenko to capitalize and throw up a submission of her own. But I do think that we'll see Avila kind of keep this fight in her range, wherever it may be. I believe that she's going to try to keep it on the feet and try to overpower Stoliarenko there, land some big shots, and try to find a knockout blow. So I'm actually going to go with Avila by second round TKO, probably by ground and pound after dropping her. But she has to be very careful about the submissions that are going to be coming back her way, because Stoliarenko is very, very offensive for her back, and that's something that she needs to worry about. But I'm not betting Avila at minus 245. I'm not parlaying her at minus 245. The only spot that I'm going to be looking at is the under 2.5. George Menexopoulos, I'm mostly thinking defensive wrestling. Will Rosa manage to take him down? I think once Jaynes starts like huffing and puffing, I think that's when Rosa might decide to take it down. As PDF family saying, everyone quit bullshit and hit that like. That definitely does help your boy out. Appreciate that. Let's see what that. Eric is saying he was the stranger originally, the UFC strangler originally, the UFC general. That was interesting. I know you guys want me to talk about Barcelos, Valiev, who we're getting there slowly but surely, I promise. Tajik Bay, once again, dropping some dono. Appreciate it. Andrew Marchenko saying Avila is the most expensive fighter on DK at 9,300. Do you like her there? I think you can get much better spots at 9,300, to be honest, or in the higher spot. Austin Johnson saying we are due for an armbar from guard. It didn't happen last week. I'm betting it to say we are due for one. This could be it. You know, we got the Lithuanian Ronda Rousey. Who knows what happens? All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Marcin Prachnio going up against Ike Villanueva. We got plus 165 on Villanueva, minus 190 on Prachnio. And say what you want about Villanueva. For some reason, he seems like the butt of the joke in the MMA betting community, but Prachnio should not be a massive or a solid size favorite over anybody. Now, Prachnio's last fight, he did stun a lot of people coming through as a sizable underdog to Khalil Roundtree. A lot of people expected that fight to end inside the distance. That actually probably, if I remember correctly, the under 1.5 in that fight was my lock of the night play, and it didn't come through at all. Sorry, my nose is really fucking with me. I'm trying to stop itching it, but I can't help it. Probably the most unpredictable outcome, Prachnio to win that fight via decision, and the majority of his offense was coming from his kicks. It was a good way for him to kind of find his range, stay away from the big power of Khalil Roundtree, other than the ending of that second round where he really got hurt. But then he found his wits about him in the third round once again and stuck to his game plan. Start with the kicks, stay on the outside, and be very, very cautious about the punches coming back his way. And Khalil just could not get anything off. Prachnio was just staying just active enough with his kicking game, which allowed him to kind of cruise on to a decision victory. Now here against Villanueva, Villanueva, very durable fighter, very hard to put away. Obviously, the Chase Sherman fight, we know there's a little bit of controversy around that one now because Chase Sherman did test positive for steroids after that fight. And then the next fight, Villanueva, only 1.5 minutes against Jordan Wright, and just absolutely obliterates his eye in that clinch. And the fight is forced to stop due to a cut in that fight. Then he comes back and redeems himself against Vinicius Moreira, finishing him in the second round with a beautiful punch that just flatlines Vinicius Moreira. Now, going up in against Prachnio on this fight, I feel like he's not going to respect Prachnio that much. Going to kind of march him down and just wait to land those big shots, which is why I kind of like Villanueva's chances here. I do think that he's going to be able to, kind of just get through the kicking game of Prachnio. I think that Prachnio is almost developed that type of game now to try to stay away from the big power of his opponents to protect that super vulnerable chin of his. I still do think he's very, chinny. I do think he has a lot of durability issues, and that's where I truly think that Villanueva will, expose that, and I think he'll be able to find that knockout punch. Again, Villanueva, very durable. I think he'll be able to march through whatever Prachnio is throwing his way, counter those punches, whatever it may be, find that chin of Prachnio and put him out. And I think that's exactly what he'll be able to do. Villanueva by KO is currently sitting at plus 275, which isn't too bad of a line. But even taking Villanueva at plus 165, he's probably one of my more favorite dogs on the card to actually get this thing done. So I'm going to go with Villanueva here. No way I'm backing Prachnio as a favorite, even as an underdog. I just can't trust that chin. And I feel like Villanueva has plenty of power in his hands to go out there and knock out a guy like Prachnio, who, 1-3 in the UFC now. Surprised the UFC even kept him around after getting, finished for a third straight time. But then again, losing to Magomed Ankalaev, you can almost give him a mulligan for that. So Villanueva has been finished by KO 5 times in his career, but he has 15 KOs on his record out of 18 wins, and I think that we'll see the 16th KO this weekend against Marcin Prachnio. See what the chat be saying. Tam Tuma saying Prachnio a head kick KO. George Metaxopoulos saying, seeing Prachnio with a minus next to his name is the definition of dog or pass, even if he fights my grandmother. I like it. Excuse me. Sweet DD, this is a side fight, no totals. Prachnio decision or Villanueva KO, too tough to decide which to bet. Absolute shit show. Yeah, I think you have a great approach there. I'd be kind of surprised if Prachnio finishes him, because I truly do believe in the durability of Villanueva. But yeah, I do think that Villanueva knocks him out here. Andrew Marchenko, I swear to God, Villanueva is probably the slowest striker I've ever seen in the UFC, but it's enough to find that chin. Uncle Wheezy, no way I would ever bet Prachnio minus 190. It's target pass, plain and simple. Couldn't have said it better myself. Rick the Ruler saying Ike need to add to his game so predictable and the striking. He just has this MMA match, not boxing. I agree. I still think it's enough for him to go out there and beat a guy like Marcin Prachnio. All right, let's move on to the next fight. This is the 5th fight of the night, and we got a short notice spot here for Jeremiah Wells, who comes in as a plus 190 dog to Warlley Alves at minus 230. Now, Jeremiah Wells coming over from the CFFC with an 8-2 record. Seems to be an explosive striker, seems to do better, obviously, when he's the one moving forward and getting his strikes off. But I do think that there are certain spots where he's a little bit too inactive, and that's where I think that Warlley Alves will be able to take advantage. I think that Warlley, obviously much better striker, has a legitimate jiu-jitsu game as well, and I do think that he'll be able to take whatever Wells is throwing at him and then kind of make him pay for it. Obviously, the short notice nature of this fight does not help Jeremiah Wells' chance, but I do think that Alves got lucky here, as I do think that the Ramazan Ameev fight was a much tougher fight for him, and I'm not even going to lie, I think that Ameev was closer to being my lock than I play if that fight had stayed intact. Not to mention the odds were only minus 140 for Ramazan Ameev, so I would have definitely taken advantage of that. But here, I think that Alves has the chops to survive whatever Wells is throwing at him and then just give it right back to him. I think we'll see Alves either pick him apart or just grapple fuck him here. I think he's going to be the much stronger fighter, the much more prepared fighter, obviously, not having to take this fight on short notice like Jeremiah Wells. And I think Alves probably wins this fight. I'm trying to figure out the method. Part of me feels like decision, but I still do think that Alves has the better technique. Cardio, a little bit of an issue for Alves, especially when things aren't going his way. But I think that Wells is almost the definition of a puncher's chance in this fight, not due to his lack of skill, but more so the lack of preparation he had to fight a guy of the skill level of Warlley Alves. So if Wells is able to go in there and, just let his hands go right off the bat, start to move forward and really start to press Warlley Alves, he could potentially find some success. But the issue is he can't do that for 15 minutes. He can't do that even for 10 minutes. He's going to have some inactivity moments, and that's where I think that Warlley Alves will start to take advantage of him. So I'm not going to parlay Warlley here at all. I'm beyond that, fading a newcomer, especially if they're somewhat serviceable, as I believe that Wells is. But I do think that Alves still wins this fight. So I'm going to be taking Warlley Alves. Let's just say decision. Again, not too sold on the method here. Tajik Bay saying Uncle Weezy in the house. Shout out to my guy Uncle Weezy. I know he's doing some stuff over there with my guy DFS by the numbers on Pub Sports. Appreciate the love as always, Mr. Uncle Weezy. Maybe I'll get you on my Friday evening show one of these days. George Medexopoulos, by the way, Uncle Easy, if you do have Twitter, please do hit me up on Twitter at MMALOTN, and maybe we can work something out. George Medexopoulos, Alves round 1 finish, probably even under 0.5. Wow, you think you get done that quickly, eh? Alex Weber, let's get on track this week. Have you gave out the lock of the night play? I did. It's on. You know what? Since you guys are watching the show live, I'll just let you guys know what it is. I've already went over. I went with Charles Rosa at -170. I believe the line that I personally got was -175. Still think he has a ton of value, as I believe he was much. He deserves to be a much bigger favorite. Sweet DD, I hate Warley Alves. I had my second biggest bet ever on the Zez. Got him at -140, and Alves absolutely shit on me. Trust me. He was my lock of the night play that night too, and I learned a lot in terms of myself and what I need to do moving forward to make sure I never have that type of loss happen to me again. Austin Johnson saying, I'm overexposed to Alves on DK. Let's go. Good luck, my brother. You know what? Let me just blow my nose real quick, and maybe that should help my nose. Give me 1 sec, fellas. All right. Hopefully that's better, but my nose still feels a little bit fucked up, so I apologize. Shout out to you as well, Kouizi. I appreciate the support as always. All right. Let's move on to the next fight here. This is going to be our 6th fight coming up. And I just want to remind you guys, this is actually an early card. This card kicks off at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's the prelim start time, and main card kicks off at 4 p.m. Eastern time, so we can get this card done nice and early. I'm very much looking forward to that. I love these afternoon cards, especially on the East Coast here. Hopefully they give us more of it. All right, next fight, like I said, we got Michel Prazeres going up against Shavkat Rakhmonov, -275 on Rakhmonov. I wouldn't even be surprised if he's -400 by the time the fight kicks off. +235 is the return here on Prazeres. Now, Prazeres coming off a lengthy layoff that included a USADA suspension, but the last time around he did get his 8-fight winning streak snapped by Ismail Nardiev. Now, Prazeres went 3 of 13 on takedown attempts in that fight, only landed about 10 or 15 significant strikes to about the 60-ish that Nardiev was able to throw on him, and he had about 5.5 minutes of control time, but that still wasn't enough to get his hand raised and notch his 9th straight victory. Prazeres is approaching 40 years old. He will turn 40 in July, whereas Rakhmonov is coming on to his 2nd fight after he had a very successful UFC debut against Cowboy Oliveira, where he's able to get a guillotine victory way back at UFC 254 back in October. The last time we saw Khabib Nurmagomedov step inside the cage. Now, Rakhmonov seems like a very promising prospect out of Kazakhstan, and I feel like he definitely has the chops to go out there and beat a guy like Prazeres, but I'm not writing off Prazeres this quickly. You know, narrative-wise, you completely understand why the line of Rakhmonov continues to climb here, but I feel like I need to see him prove himself a little bit more. And this is very similar to what we just saw and a fighter that we just saw in terms of Warley Alves and Munir Lazzez. You know, we had a very impressive debut from Munir Lazzez against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and then he's a pretty significant or a pretty solid favorite over Warley Alves in his next fight, and he gets absolutely smoked. We're getting the same situation here with Rakhmonov coming in as a slight underdog. I believe he closed as a slight favorite against Cowboy Oliveira, gets an impressive finish. Now he's going up against a UFC veteran, and he's a heavy favorite. And let's mind our discipline here. Let's be very careful about what we choose. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm picking Rakhmonov to win. I think he wins. But I have people hammering me in my DMs and even in my Patreon saying that Rakhmonov should be the lock of the night play, but I disagree. You know, he is one of my more confident spots on the card, but I'm not willing to tie my name to him at -275 as my lock of the night play after he's only had one successful fight inside the UFC. Now he is undefeated, obviously. I believe he's 13-0 at this time, has a couple legitimate wins on the regional scene, but let's see him fight a proven fighter like Prazeres. Now, Prazeres is probably on the decline, don't get me wrong, but I still believe that it's a tough test for anybody. Rakhmonov's most wins are coming via submission, and I find it hard for I find it hard that he'll actually find the sub here against Prazeres, especially with that non-existent neck of this guy. But Prazeres never been finished. Only 3 losses in his career, all by decision. And I think that Rakhmonov will bring the same type of energy in terms of controlling where this fight goes and pulling off a decision victory. So I like Rakhmonov here. I think he wins by decision, but I'm not running home yet to throw him into all my parlays. I have some action on him, don't get me wrong, but I want to see him prove himself a little bit more. And if he's able to pass this test on Prazeres, convincingly, especially with the finish, I'll be more than sold on this guy. But a win over Cowboy Oliveira, I need more than that. I definitely need more than that, but I do think he wins here. So I'm going Shavkat Rakhmonov by decision. Mixed martial arts, seeing easy win for Rakhmonov. He's a better prospect than Hamza. People in Europe know. Interesting. Cam Tuma saying Prazeres by decision. Not bad. Jimmy the Drunk, Warley Alves is a future champion. Yeah, that's a stretch. Sweet DD, Shavkat is the man. Tough to see Prazeres ever getting finished because he's built like my house. But if anyone's going to do it, it's Shavkat. Banked on him at dog odds against Cowboy Oliveira. Crazy. Mixed martial arts, he's like Justin Gaethje. He's going to be undefeated until he fights for the #1 contendership or title. Interesting. Austin Johnson, Shavkat could be a future contender, especially if he handles business here. How people think he will. Tough opponent, and I think he gets it done in one. Wow. If he is able to finish Prazeres, I'd be very impressed. All right, let's move this train along. And this brings us, if the Tapology bout order is correct, this will actually be the prelim headliner. We got Danilo Marques going up against Kennedy and Nzechukwu. Minus 125 for the short notice. And Nzechukwu, I should say, stepping in for Ed Herman. Plus 105 is the return on Danilo Marques. And I got to say, I still believe that Danilo Marques is the worst 2-0 fighter inside the UFC. And I'm hoping that Nzechukwu can put that winning streak to a stop here. Marques, not good striking at all, just does enough to close the distance, drag his fighter to the ground, and then eventually try to pull off a submission. But I think that's going to be tough to do against Nzechukwu, who will be quite strong here. Obviously, much better striking, still needs to polish it up a little bit more. Had a very successful fight last time around against Carlos Ulberg, where he was a very big underdog. Pulls off the upset there. It's a good win for Nzechukwu, but this is a completely different style of opponent that he's going up against with Danilo Marques. He's going to have to stuff the takedowns, dig the underhooks, push the head down, whatever it may take. Keep this fight on the feet, and then really punish Danilo Marques, as I truly think that Marques cannot withstand the striking that's going to be coming his way from a guy like Nzechukwu. Mike Rodriguez really fucked up my night that night when I took him as a heavy favorite against Marques, because I truly thought that as soon as he let his striking go, Marques would start to fold. But then the takedown threat really started to fuck with Mike Rodriguez, and we didn't see him let his hands go, and that's where Marques was able to start to take advantage and drag the fight to the ground, eventually pulling off a submission victory. I think we'll see Nzechukwu actually pull the trigger. I don't think that we'll see him as gun-shy as we saw Mike Rodriguez last time around. So I completely understand the love on Nzechukwu. I still just have this, I don't know if it's PTSD from the last fight, but I still do just have this thing in terms of fading Marques now. And obviously we're getting a much better line on Nzechukwu here than we were with Mike Rodriguez last time around. But I still do feel that the greenness and rawness of Nzechukwu might come through here in terms of him getting dragged to the ground and just grinded out by Marques. But yeah, I do think Nzechukwu wins this fight, probably by first or second round KO. I really think it's just a matter of time until Marques takes that L, and I think that this is the fight that it finally happens in. But I did think it was the last 2 fights as well, so we'll see what happens. He continuously proves me wrong time and time again, but I am going to go with Nzechukwu, and I'll take him by KO, probably first or second round. Jimmy the Drunk saying Kennedy GMP TKO round 2. I like it. Mixed martial arts. Lock could even be Marques at 205. I don't know, man. The guy keeps proving me wrong. Alex Weber saying, I want to line on Kennedy to not lose by KO. Chin of the gods. You know what? They actually do have a line on not and Nzechukwu by KO. Let me see if I can give that to you right here. Or sorry, not Marques by KO. Any other result is minus 1305. Is that correct? Minus 1905. Also, $2,000 down, you get $100 back. Mixed partial frauds is saying he's going to KO stiff him. Major mismatch. I agree. Uncle Wheezy saying Kennedy has 78% takedown defense and a great get up game. I'm looking for a third round finish from Kennedy. His conditioning is fantastic. Yeah, his last one was very awe inspiring. Waleed Raid, Marques is so trash. We should fade him while we can. I tried. MMA Kappa is saying the big Nigerian needs to up his output. Mans would have lost that Darko fight had he not had 2 points taken due to multiple sack attacks. I remember that. Sweet DD, I haven't seen anybody on Marques. How the fuck is this still near Pick'em? Ton of value on Nzechukwu. The KO prop is nice too. I watched Marques get stiffened by a partially landed overhand. Very suspect chin. I know. Why the fuck wasn't Mike Rodriguez able to do it? Austin Johnson, whoever wins is going to look like a minus 200. I bet Kennedy at plus money, but it's mostly a shot in the dark. Aspidia family saying, didn't know with another BS win. I sure hope not. I can't stand seeing this guy anymore. All right, that brings us to our main card, and I do want to remind you guys, as always, please hit that like, hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Best way to support your boy and the show. And let's move this thing along. The first fight of the main card. Once again, reminder: 4 p.m. Eastern start time. And we start off with a banger here. We got Jay Herbert going up against Hanato Moicano. Minus 240 is the favorite here in Moicano, and plus 200 the return on Jay Herbert. I definitely think the fight is should be closer line, right? I don't think that Moicano should be this big of a favorite considering his durability issues and his striking defense issues. Now, if he had tightened that up, then yeah, minus 240, minus 300 even seems appropriate for Moicano, but he just seems like he cannot take a punch or any damage anymore. And albeit, his losses are coming to top-notch guys, Jose Aldo, Korean Zombie, and then obviously most recently Rafael Fiziev. But Jay Herbert has a nasty striking game of his own. Very tight, crisp shots down the middle. Not often you see Francisco Trinaldo on wobbly legs and hurt as much as he was in that fight. And Herbert was pretty much on his way to winning a decision in that fight before he got nuked near the ending of that fight by Francisco Trinaldo. Again, Trinaldo never been finished, and Herbert was able to get him as close to anybody has been to finishing Francisco Trinaldo. Moicano could definitely get hit here by Herbert and dropped, but I think the best way Moicano has to win this fight is drag this fight to the ground, similar to the Damir Hadzovic fight. Do not fuck around on the feet at all. Drag this fight to the ground and let's get a submission going. The spot that I actually really like is the under 2.5, and I'm not sure if that's actually the widely available line here in terms of the total. But the under 2.5 is roughly around minus 145. I really like that spot, as I do think that we'll see a finish either way here. I think it's going to be a Moicano sub. I think it looks similar to the Hadzovic fight. Maybe not as quickly, but I think he drags him to the ground, and then he's going to eventually find Herbert in some sort of submission. I will definitely be taking a shot at the under 2.5 here. Under 1.5 sketches me out a little bit more, but I do think that there's a high likelihood that both guys are able to get the finisher. Herbert either by KO or Moicano by KO or sub. But I think that Moicano is levels and levels above what Herbert brings to the table on when this fight does hit the jiu-jitsu room. And that's where I think that we'll see Moicano truly, flourish. And yeah, if he gets knocked out here, man, what a fall from grace, right? A guy that fought Jose Aldo, was seen to be the guy that's the next big guy at this weight class, but just cannot get it going. But he's really going to have to get it going here against Jay Herbert. And if he doesn't win this fight, man, it's not going to look good. But I got Moicano inside the distance, and the under 2.5 is something that I'm going to be looking at. Even the fight won't start round 3 minus 130. I like that as well. Let me just blow my nose one more time, guys. I apologize. I sincerely apologize for the continuous nose issues that I'm dealing with today, but gotta get through it regardless. All right, let's see what people are saying here. MMA Kappa J Herbie to find out Shane, my underdog of the night. I don't blame you. I do think that he is definitely live here. Mixed martial arts, hit that like. I love it. Bill's Mafia just showing the chat. You two that shot like you took that shot like a champ. I prefer the Jayne as well. Yes, exactly. Herbie got killed by Trinaldo, yeah, but he was really lighting him up early there. Sweet DD, both are Argentinian, although Moicano never won by KO. He has some power, throws in combinations, and is aggressive. I like the fight to end by KO at plus 240. I like that as well. But I think the submission is actually what Moicano is going to end up getting. Robot Chicken Wings saying Dan Hardy will be in his corner. That's interesting, right? Doesn't he have some like issues with the UFC? Sweet DD saying no side here. Yeah, too much chalk on Moicano, who has just too many durability issues. Uncle Weezy, I'm on the under 2.5 year as well. I also have a 0.25 units by Moicano first round sub. I see this fight looking like Moicano's win over Hadzovic. Herbert, terrible takedown defense. I like it. Robot Chicken Wings reminding us that Herbert got murked by Reese McKee as well. Eric saying you're rocking the Covey. I am not. I am not. I swear to God. Austin Johnson, I swear to God, if Moicano doesn't go for a takedown this year, I bet the under 2 just to be safe. Yeah, that's the way to go here. I think Robot Chicken Wings, I'm wearing a mask. You're good. You're all good. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. I think this is a 6-fight main card that we got. Next up, we got Nicholas Dalby going up against Tim Means. Let me just pull up the thing here. We got plus 115 on Dalby, minus 135 on Tim Means. And I'm kind of surprised that the line is moving the way that it is. Tim Means opened up close to a minus 200 favorite and has gotten bet down to minus 135 with a lot of people super confident on the Dalby side. And I just don't completely understand it. Like the only way I think you can be comfortable betting the Dalby side here is if you think that he's going to knock out Tim Means, as I do agree that Tim Means does have possible durability issues, and I feel like I need to distance him from those knockout losses and getting rocked and dropped and club and subbed by Daniel Rodriguez the way that he did, for me to be completely honest. Like if Means hadn't gotten knocked out, in 2 out of his last 5 fights, or close to getting knocked out in 2 out of his last 5 fights, I'd probably make an unlock the night play here against Nicholas Dalby. But Dalby, not a proficient knockout artist, had 3 knockouts on the Cage Warrior scene before coming back to the UFC. It does give me a little bit of pause, right? He is a little bit more explosive, a little bit more agile, and moves a lot better than what Mike Perry brings to the table. And I know a lot of people are going to bring that fight to the forefront to prove that Tim Means does have a good chin. But Mike Perry was just a walking punching bag in that fight. He seemed to just have that one takedown at the beginning of the fight, and then after that, he was just happy with getting lit up the way that he was against Tim Means. Just stayed very efficient and tight in that fight, staying on the outside and just picking apart Mike Perry. Whereas Dalby, I think, will present a little bit more issues in terms of speed, resistance, and even I believe timing with that knockout power that he could potentially land on Means here. But I think that if Means is able to keep this fight vertical, which I think he will, he's going to light up Dalby like a Christmas tree himself, as long as he doesn't get knocked out. I truly think he wins this fight, no issues. He's like probably my 3rd or 4th most confident spot on this card here, as I do think that he's a much better striker and has way better output than what Nicholas Dalby is bringing to the table. So yeah, I do like Tim Means here. I like Tim Means actually by decision. I don't think we'll see him kind of overextend on his punches or try to get too crazy with it, seeking a finish. But Tim Means by decision is the spot that I'm liking the most, and that's currently at plus 205. I really like him in this spot, and I think he gets done. Your decision. Vegeta is saying the only way I see Moicano winning is by sub. Robot Chicken Wings Perry is done. You're right. All right. Let's move on to the next fight here. We got Andre Fili against Daniel Pineda. A little bit of a tougher fight for me to call. I don't agree with the line. I think it's a little bit wide, but I just don't think that I have the chops to go out there and bet a guy like Daniel Pineda after such an underwhelming fight in his last fight against Cub Swanson. I think a lot of people are suffering from that too. I think a lot of people were banking on Daniel Pineda last time around against Cub, but he got knocked out in that second round. It did not look good for him. Fili, on the other hand, goes out there and gets out grappled by Bryce Mitchell back on Halloween of 2020 and has yet to fight since then. So this is a good fight for him to come back to. And I know Daniel Pineda is pretty much team, number one all team violence to most of his fights, ending inside the distance with him either finding the finish or getting finished. But I just think that Fili will present a fight here that's going to, keep it quite disciplined, keep Pineda on the outside. When Fili's jab is going, he has one of the best jabs inside the UFC. If he can stick behind it and keep Pineda at distance, he should be able to outpoint Pineda and take home a decision victory. Maybe he mixes in a couple takedowns. I think his jiu-jitsu game is good enough to hang with a guy like Pineda who's very aggressive in those situations. But I think that Fili is going to thwart those forward movements and that forward attack from Pineda with that jab and staying disciplined and staying on the outside. He's going to be obviously the bigger fighter here. I think he has a 3 or 4 inch height advantage, obviously a decent reach advantage as well. And I think he's going to have to utilize that to its fullest extent to be able to be successful in this fight. If he lets Pineda on the inside or lets Pineda take him down, I think it's going to be a rough night. But I do trust Fili a little bit to be able to maintain that distance and get a striking game going from the outside. Minus 225, though, not the type of price I'd be willing to pay on Fili, even though I do believe that he wins this fight. In terms of how he wins the fight, I do think it comes via decision. His decision prop is sitting at plus 230. I think that's a solid spot, but I think he should be close to maybe minus 150, minus 160, rather than the minus 225 that he currently sits at. Pineda, continuously getting disrespect outside of that Cub Swanson fight. I was happy to catch him as a big underdog in his fight against Herbert Burns, but I do think he has a stiffer test here against a much more technical Andre Fili, and that's how I expect Fili to keep this fight in the striking position and then eventually outpoint him on the feet and get his game going that way. Andrew Marchenko, Pineda scored half my lineups last time. I'm all in on Fili this time. Be careful. Be careful. Eric saying, I like Fili after Cub Pinata Pineda. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Fili, 3rd round TKO. Vegeta, this one is a good stand-up fight. Pineda looking for the finish, but I don't think you'll get it. I think Fili gets a decision. I agree. George Medixopoulos saying Fili just needs to survive for 1 round. When the second round begins, it's up to him whether he finishes Pineda or plays it safe, but the fight is his to take. I agree. Fili just needs to survive that first round. Alex Weber saying, have you considered the MMA math? Perry versus D-Rod, Perry versus Means, D-Rod versus Dalby? No, I did not. Pineda deflated after he got de-juiced. Yeah, well, he got de-juiced 2 fights before that, right? It was after his PFL run that he got de-juiced. Still pulled out a big win over Herbert Burns. Fell flat on his face against Cub Swanson. I think he goes 1-2 in the UFC now by losing to Andre Fili this weekend. MMA Kappa, Fili to unleash that Samoan power 3rd round TKO. Is he Samoan? I don't think he's Samoan. Sweet D, Pineda came in so overweight against Cub and expected to walk through him. He should be humbled after that. Fili is so skinny and tends to get controlled by the stronger guy. I like fight goes to decision. I like that too. Nicholas West, Fili will win this one. Maybe a small parlay piece. Sweet DD, of course, Fili the longer, more technical striker, underrated wrestler too, but I see either side winning by decision. I like it as well. All right. MMA Kappa saying he does have Samoan blood in it. I did not know that. I don't know why I always thought, well, I guess, you know what, I'm a complete nutcase. Like, some Hawaiians have Samoan blood in them, right? I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass at this point. All right, next fight, the fight that everybody is pretty much looking forward to. If you're a hardcore nut, you got to be super excited for this one, just as I am. We got Raoni Barcelos minus 210 going up against Timur Valiev at plus 175. And I think that this is one of 2 fights where people are going to be value hunting here, but unfortunately, they're going to end up ripping up their tickets. I like Raoni Barcelos in this fight. I think both guys are evenly matched here. I think Barcelos is just a notch ahead, especially in the striking realm with his Muay Thai. I think he's a lot more efficient with the striking compared to the wild, spinning, flying, striking style of Valiev. And I think that's going to end up costing him here, where Barcelos who's going to be on that leg kick, staying on him in that aspect. And if he gets caught up into the wrestling realm, Barcelos, if I'm not mistaken, Brazilian wrestling team standout. Great jiu-jitsu player as well. Great grappling on both guys here. Valiev obviously had to lean on it a lot in his last fight against Martin Day so that he can get back into, or at least get his first ever win inside the UFC after falling flat in his debut against Trevin Jones, getting knocked out in the second round. So I don't blame him for taking that grapple-heavy approach in his last fight. I just don't think he'll be that successful with it against Barcelos here, who should be able to nullify any grapple type of approach, just as Valiev should be able to nullify any type of grapple-heavy approach from Barcelos, which leads me to believe that this will be a stand-up fight for the majority of it, and I kind of lean on Barcelos' style more so than Valiev's style. Barcelos throws in great combinations, obviously ending with leg kicks more often than not, whereas Valiev more explosive in bursts every now and then, throws something big. So I think that the volume is going to be on the Barcelos side, and I also think that Barcelos will land the more impactful shots. So I do like Barcelos to win this fight. I like him to win by decision. I do agree with most people in the assessment that the line is too wide here. I would like Barcelos closer to that minus 150 range, but I still do believe that people that are seeking the value here on Valiev are still going to end up on the losing end, as I do think that Barcelos wins this fight. I like Barcelos, think he has a high ceiling, just as I think Valiev has, but it's just so shitty to have to see these guys go up against each other, right? I tweeted earlier today or yesterday that this fight reminds me of Ricardo Ramos going up against Said Nurmagomedov. Both guys undefeated leading up into that fight, or at least undefeated in the UFC leading up to that fight, and unfortunately one of them had to lose. Even Barcelos against Said Nurmagomedov, another fight where I have two up-and-coming prospects that I believe shouldn't have been fighting each other. They should build them up a little bit more, get them into the top 15, and then match them up. But another situation here where you have Barcelos and Valiev having to deal with a similar situation. But I do think that we'll see the Brazilian come out on top with the unanimous decision victory here. Close fight though. Barcelos' decision is my play or my prediction, but I can't wait to see this fight play out. More than likely, I'll have zero action on this fight, but I do like Barcelos to win it. Let's see what the chat is saying. Andrew Marchenko saying that's the fight of the night, ladies and gentlemen. I agree. Ben saying, what's up, Lock? And I'm going with Barcelos. Great matchup, though. Potential fight of the night. I agree. My guy Z's MMA in the chat. Appreciate you lurking in the background, watching the stream, my brother. Violence bet for Hani versus Valiev plus 150. I don't mind that. Again, I can see him mainly playing out in the striking realm. Valiev has shown to have a little bit of durability issues. Valiev definitely has the power to put Hani on notice as well. But I do think that we see this go to 15 minutes. And I do like Hani Barcelos to pull it out. George Menexopoulos saying Barcelos may look ridiculously faster than Valiev on Saturday as well. I agree. MMA Kappas, Peep Jerry, Max Holloway, Joe asked who hit him hardest. Max said Andre, then revealed he has Samoan blood in him. Makes sense as he always gets support from Tuivasa and Pedro. Interesting. Z's MMA Valiev debut loss was the craziest thing. Yeah, that was a crazy one. They could have stopped the fight for him when he was the one really putting it on Mr. Trevin Jones. Crazy. I believe that was Chris Tione, if I'm not mistaken. Infamous Chris Tione. Austin Johnson, possible fight of the night here. Will be high paced, and I think Barcelos could get a KO, but I think it'll go the distance. I agree. Eric is saying Cody Garbrandt versus Thomas Almeida blew my mind when they made that fight back then, as far as crazy prospects go. Great fight. Great comparison there. But the good thing about that fight was they actually made that a main event. Like, both guys were proven enough at that point in time that they could main event a fight night. These guys aren't there yet. Albeit they should be. They're just not getting the shine yet. Alex Weber, Valiev lost debut because Jones was on the weed. Yeah, I remember that. My guy Niklaus West is on the Korean baseball. Andrew Marchenko, Hani is much bigger than Valiev. Valiev not going to have any grappling advantage for sure. I think it'll just be nullified, to be honest. Sweet DD, Valiev relies on controlling the distance, but I don't think he can because Barcelos is simply just too fast and explosive to quantify, freezing him and actually eventually catching Barcelos by KO. I like it. I had a feeling that was the wrong chat window, my guy. All right, I got Barcelos by a decision. That alcohol shot that I took at the beginning of this is not sitting well in my stomach. But we grind on and get through these last two fights since we only have 2 fights left. All right. We got co-main event time. We got Oven St. Preux taking on short notice. Tanner Boser, -170 on Boser, +150 on Ovens St. Preux, who was originally scheduled to fight Maxime Grishin at 205 pounds. I believe Grishin has visa issues, not able to make it to the States. So St. Preux takes Tanner Boser on short notice and up a weight class, up at heavyweight, just as he fought Ben Rothwell a couple fights ago. And I think stylistically speaking that this is a tough matchup for St. Preux. Now, a lot of people are throwing Tanner Boser to the side now just because he lost Ilir Latifi last time around, and obviously the Andre Arlovsky the fight before that. But I don't think that St. Preux provides the same threats that guys like Andre Arlovsky and Ilir Latifi did. St. Preux obviously has a very crafty submission game, so if he gets this fight to the ground, he could definitely get that Von Preux going, but I don't think he'll be super successful with it. I'm not super impressed with his top control. I don't think he has the greatest wrestling. I think at most, the most success he'll get is probably a takedown in that first round, but then after that, I think his cardio issues, which he's had in the past, will start to come to fruition, and Boser will start to take over with, starting off with that leg kick. That leg kick has been the main ingredient in a lot of his wins. If he can establish that here against St. Preux, he should be able to start opening up his punches and start landing the bigger, more impactful strikes, causing desperation takedowns from St. Preux, which I think Tanner Boser will be able to shuck off in the second and third rounds of this fight. The longer this fight goes, obviously, the more that I favor Boser, and I do expect him to go out there and outstrike St. Preux over 15 minutes and take home a unanimous decision victory. Am I trusting Boser at -170? Probably not. Maybe the Boser by decision line is the way to go, which I think is sitting around that +200 mark. Boser decision +175 now. So a little bit of action coming in, but I do like that spot, as I do think he goes out there and just lights up St. Preux for the majority of at least the last 10 minutes of this fight. The first 5 will tell us a lot about it, especially with how successful St. Preux will be with keeping Boser down, but I think that's going to cause him to exert a lot of energy, which will refrain him from securing that top pressure and that grappling control later in this fight. So I'm going Tanner Boser, -170, and I'll take him by decision as well. By outstriking St. Preux in this fight. Seems like the majority of the chat is already agreeing with me. Nicholas West, Boser, I will 30-27 him. Damian Tutt is saying Boser by boring decision. I agree. Nicholas West, OSP too low volume to win a point fight versus Boser. Again, great point as well. Like I said, I think he really needs to get his grappling game going, but I just don't think he'll be efficient enough with it to truly make a dent on the judges. Eric saying, I think Tanner's pissed and will be out for a stoppage and reckless after another ugly decision loss. That could be something to take into consideration. Boser could come out and try to look for the finish, so he doesn't have to keep relying on the judges to fucking save his job. George Medexopoulos saying a fight that makes 0 sense. St. Preux not planning to stay a heavyweight, so him winning does nothing for him accordingly. Boser beating him up does nothing for him as well. Well, this was a short notice fight, right? I believe late last week, Maxime Grishin pulled out and Tanner Boser jumps back in. So I don't mind the matchmaking here, just to save OSP and at least keep him on the card still. Sweet DD, St. Preux isn't as chinny as perceived, and Boser doesn't have the power as perceived. OSP will look to control on the mat. I don't see Boser getting the KO. Fight goes to decision is +110. I like that. And I do think it's going to be Boser by decision. My guy AJ from MMA Experts stopping by to say what up. He's saying Boser for sure. I agree. Wii Sports Matt saying I kind of like OSP here. Interesting. All right. Before we get to the main event, 2 things that I want to say right off the bat. Or 2 things that I want to bring up to you guys immediately. Lock of the Night Challenge. The registrations are finally open. So this current edition that we have going on, the $25 game and the $100 game, is coming to a close with this weekend's event. In the $25 game, we have over Sorry, let me just get this off the screen. In the $25 game, we currently have about 73 or 76 competitors. And then in the $100 game, we have about 43 competitors. I'm looking to top those numbers this time around. I haven't reached out to the people that are currently in the game to see if they want to jump back in. I'll be doing that over the next day or so. Usually we retain about 75% of the people. They come back because they love the game. They want to take another chance at it, whether they won or whether they were close to winning or whether they weren't winning at all. And then we usually have a good crop of new guys that jump in as well because they really enjoy the game. Pretty much what the lock of the night challenge is, you pick one lock of the night bet for every single UFC event for the rest of the year. So it starts with UFC 264 and it goes all the way to the end of December. Every bet is considered a 5-unit stake bet. So if you bet a minus 200 and you win, you cash 2.5 units. That gets added to your total. If you lose, though, that's minus 5 units. So it's a lot harder to build yourself back up. But that's the lock of the night way. And that's how I want to see people approach it. You can make it a straight bet. You can make it a parlay. You can make a total prop, whatever the fuck it is. It's only one bet per event. And it's a very interesting way to see how people capitalize on that type of strategy and how they can make it work for themselves. So, like I said, it's just been growing every single edition, and I'm expecting to hit at least 100 people in the $25 game this time around. So if you're interested, hit me up in the DMs, whether you're on Instagram or Twitter, preferably Twitter, as I do most of the games on there. Hit me up in the DMs at MMALOTN if you are interested. Deadline is July 4th, but I want to get as many people signed up as soon as possible because I always get rushed on the last day, and then it's a very difficult situation in terms of trying to sort everybody out while sending out the welcome messages and all that type of stuff. So if you're interested in the Lock of the Night game, hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at MMALOTN. Let me know you're interested, and then I'll get you the information necessary to see if you are ready to sign up and send over the entry fee. So there's the Lock of the Night play. Secondly, I'm starting to wind down on the people that I had lined up for the Ultimate Weigh-In show. Now, I'm having difficulties with, keeping people, who say that they're going to come for a certain week and then, 2 or 3 days before they flop or they pull out or something comes up. And I get it. Life happens. Shit happens. I'm not paying these guys to be on the show. But it happens that I need to start widening the pool of people that I bring onto the show. I don't want to repeat anybody yet until I get through everybody that I believe I need to get through. But if you have any suggestions, drop them in the comment section or drop them in my DMs, tweet it to me, Instagram it to me, whatever the fuck it may be. If you haven't seen them on the Ultimate Weigh-In show yet, let me know who it is and I'll look if I can get them actually on because I want to give these guys a platform. It's a great show. We usually get a solid amount of views, 4,000 or 5,000 views. That's more, on the higher end, especially in this type of industry. And I definitely want to give these guys the exposure and then obviously chop it up and give the viewers different looks and different approaches for betting. So just two main things there that I wanted to bang off before we move on to the main event here. Let me just see what the chat says. Alex Huber is saying I'm in for sure. What's payment structure? I don't keep any of the I don't keep any of the entry fees. I pretty much give all the entry fee back into the pot. So 65% is given to first place, 25% is given to second place, and 10% is given to third place. So like this for this edition, I believe the pot for the $25 game is at $1,900, and the pot for the $100 game is at $4,300. So I'm hoping to top those both for this next edition. So if you're into it, hit me up in the DMs, and I'll be sure to sign you up. All right, let's see what the chat is saying, and then I'll move on to the main event here. Frank Jordan giving me some info on my nasal passages. You might want to try flushing your nasal passages with the Neomed sinus rinse. I bet it clears up your nose almost immediately. Check it out, man. I shall do so. James Beck, how many finishes this week, MMALOTN? I saw you message on one of my past videos saying that I told you that a lot of them won't be going to a decision. I said 9, 6 of them went to a decision. That's close enough, at least half the card. I'm not sure how many I actually picked to go to a decision for this one. Let me just see real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the 13 fights this week, and I think are going to go to a decision. There you go. George Menexopoulos saying get Magic MMA for the pure comedy of his breakdowns. I'd love to. I'm not sure if he'll do it, but I'll reach out to him and see if he's down. Kung Dao Chicken, what's up, brother? Hopefully we can bounce back this week with the lock and play. I agree. Kung Dao Chicken just saying wasabi works to clear out your nose as well. I just had sushi earlier today too, so maybe I should hit that as well. All right, again, if you're interested in a Lock of the Night play, hit me up in the DMs, MMALOTN on Twitter and Instagram, preferably Twitter. And again, deadline to sign up is July 4th. All right, let's get to the main event here. We got Alexander Volkov plus 145 going up against Cyril Gane minus 165. And I'm seeing a ton of love out there for Volkov. A lot of people very confident that one, he's the value side, which I kind of agree with. And two, they think that he goes out there and actually gets the win. I don't see it that way. I actually think that Cyril Gane is going to continue to prove that he's the legitimate real deal in the heavyweight division and possibly the next heavyweight champion. I like his movement. I like his footwork. I like his speed. His discipline is very good. He goes out there and does what he needs to do. He fights all these different types of game plans just to showcase that he can fight any which way you need him to fight to go out there and successfully get the win. Now, a lot of people are kind of low on him to especially since his win to over Jairzinho Rosa strike a couple months back. But I think that's more so on the Rosa strike side in terms of who you should be blaming in terms of why that fight was as boring as it was. Now, do you really blame Gane for playing as safe as he did against a heavy puncher like Jairzinho Rosa strike? You make one little mistake, you zig when you should have zagged or something like that. You get clipped by Jairzinho Rosa strike, and next thing you know, you're coming out with half your paycheck, and you finally end up with the first loss on your career. You got to play it safe against heavy hitters like that, man. Like just ask Augusto Sakai, who tried doing it against Jairzinho Rosa strike a couple weeks ago. You got to be very, very careful. And I think that Gane did the perfect thing that he needed to in that Jairzinho Rosa strike fight to get his hand raised. Now here against Volkov, I think his speed is going to be the main reason as to why he wins this fight. He should be able to get in and out to land the big shots against Volkov. He might even be stronger than Volkov, who we've seen pack on a lot of muscle since his last or two fights ago in October when he came in against Walt Harris. The first time we've ever seen Volkov that big and that thick coming in right at the 265-pound limit. And a lot of people were questioning how he would look. He looked very well in his next two fights, but this is a far distance in terms of what he was going up against in the washed-up Alistair Overeem, and then obviously the very one-dimensional Walt Harris that he fought back in October. I think it's going to be hard for Volkov to corral Gane here. I think Gane will stay on his feet or stay, moving, stay on his bike, stay on the outside, land the strikes that he needs to, and then get back out. And again, I think the speed is going to be the main reason he ends up winning this fight. We also know that Volkov's kryptonite has been the takedowns. Obviously, I'm just going to completely take away the Curtis Blades fight because it's going to be tough for Gane to replicate that type of approach. But I do think that we'll see Gane successful on some takedowns here, and maybe he'll try to ride out some top pressure to at least eat up some minutes and get some control time. But I do see this fight going the full 25 minutes. I do think we see Gane take home the decision of victory, which I think I said is sitting around between plus 200 and plus 250. But I think that there's a massive amount of value there. The experience is obviously far in Volkov's favor, right? Former M1 champion, former Bellator champion, fought the who's in the heavyweight division for years and years, whereas Gane's only 8-0. His most notable win is probably Junior Dos Santos, a 2020 Junior Dos Santos. But I do think that we're seeing all the right things from Gane. We're seeing what the proper progression from him, and this is the fight that truly will showcase whether he is truly a title contender or not. Volkov will bring the best out of him, and I think that Gane will pass this test with flying colors. I think that I think Volkov is the much better technical striker, but I truly think he's not going to be able to hit what he's not going to be able to see. And I do think that Gane will be able to get out of the way of the big shots that Volkov's going to be throwing his way. Volkov, extremely talented, don't get me wrong, but I think it's going to be very hard for him to track down Gane. And people can say all they want about a small cage and all that type of shit. It's not that small. Like, I do think that Gane will do a good enough job in terms of getting out of the way of those big strikes, and he has enough real estate to operate his type of game on, right? Even in the Rosa strike fight, a much more dangerous fight in terms of staying away from a one-punch knockout power kind of guy, and he did it flawlessly. I believe he's going to do the same thing here against Volkov. Yeah, I like Gane here. I like Gane by decision, and I really do think that he wins this fight quite decisively. So yeah, I'm on the Cyril Gane side of things. I apologize to the value hunters on Valiev and Volkov here, but Russia's not going to come through for them this time. I think the Frenchman and the Brazilian end up getting the hand raised, even though that they're slightly bigger favorites than they should be. All right, let's see. what the chat is saying, and then I'm going to get on up out of here. Z saying flip the line. You are seeing love for Volkov, where Twitter, all over Twitter, everybody's on Volkov, it seems. MMA experts, well said, bro. I'm on Gane as well. I see him fighting for the belt. I agree. MMA Genie in the chat. Long time since I see my boy. George Medexopoulos, Volkov is the value side, but the speed advantage might be too much for a thick Volkov, especially if Gane mixes in leg kicks and some short clinch situation. My heart says we're Volkov, though. Andrew Marchenko, Volkov finally gained weight and now is a totally different animal. 7,500 on DK is a must-have in my opinion. Kung Dao Chicken Clint is big and hammered the line on Volkov. Surprisingly, he's usually right when he throws down the hammer. I think it might be wrong this time, though. Hayden Stevenson, Gane is a bad matchup for Volkov. I agree. James Beck, whoever says Gane is fighting for the belt is delusional, man. I think he could. Jared, I'm not very confident, but I really want Volkov to succeed. People want to talk about his wrestling, but I took the division's best wrestler to keep him on the ground at all. I agree. Kung Dao Chicken, I don't think Gane can control Volkov on the ground. Volkov is a brown belt and has an underrated ground game. I think it'll be enough to, in terms of like getting him down, how much he plays on the ground. I don't think he'll play that much, but yeah, you are right. He is a very good jiu-jitsu player in himself. And I think that Gane needs to be very careful. Kung Dao Chicken, take away Curtis Blades fight. Volkov's defense is like 85%. I think the ability for Gane to mix up his takedowns and his striking will be his key to landing those takedowns. He mixes the MMA game together so well. Jerry's saying, but it's up in the air for me. Could easily see either one winning. I definitely see Gane winning, to be honest. Austin Johnson, one thing is Gane hasn't done great when people move towards him and quickly explode towards him. Volkov doesn't do that at all, but I wonder if maybe the constant pressure will get Gane the same way. Maybe. George Mexopoulos, if Gane comes in with the wrestling first approach, he's doing a huge favor to Volkov. He's going to need a full MMA game to beat a guy like Volkov. Z, who I know is on Volkov this weekend. Gane's style requires a lot of energy. He hasn't gassed yet, but let's see how he looks after being forced to react to feints from the largest, most technical striker he's faced. Yeah, definitely the biggest test he's faced. I absolutely agree with that. While Yo Al Gaban, Yo Lock, Matt Brown's 4-year comment was directed at me. I felt it, bro. Sweet DD, Volkov weighs 350 pounds. Anything lower is just wrong. He's listed at 6'7", but also BS. Volkov is too slow, but he will walk him down and maybe land the bigger shots, but Gane volume. Fight goes to decision minus 110. I like that. I like the over 4.5 in this as well. Dan Goldstein, yeah, I think Gane will have problems with Volkov is moving forward and touching him. Gane has a higher ceiling, but I don't know if Volkov is a good one, but I see why Gane is touted. George Marexopoulos, Gane should just mix things up, but definitely not actually commit to takedown attempts against Volkov, or he's getting KO'd late. Zip code is liking the over. I like that too. Genie is earlier in the chat, it seems like. Kung Dao Chicken, why do people think Gane has a better ground game than Volkov? He's primarily a kickboxer and has way less experience in grappling than Volkov. I don't think that Gane has a better ground game than Volkov, but I think it's good enough in terms of, landing takedowns just to mix up the martial arts for the sake of mixing it up. Speed will be everything for Gane here. I agree. I think that is the main difference, is the fact that Gane will be the faster fighter. Kung Dao Chicken, I think the safest bet is fight goes to the decision. I agree. The only finish I see coming is from Volkov. Gane will play the point fighting game like he did against Rosa Strike. I agree. James is back reminding you guys, please do hit that like button. It's the best way to show them haters. Z's MMA, the heavyweight finish rate in 5-round fights is like 81%, just saying. Gane and Volkov are just different, though. You know that, Z. You know that. Guayil Al-Gaban saying, I'm glad to hear you're on Gane's side, because if Gane takes Volkov down, I don't see Gane being able to get back up. I disagree, but I think it's definitely going to help. Z's MMA, if Gane grapples, he's going to burn his gas. Blades got tired and he's a wrestler first. I agree. George Manixopoulos, I'm not confident on the Volkov will walk him down narrative, though. Gane will touch and go and probably will not be there to get hit most of the times. I agree. All right. That is pretty much a wrap. We are at the hour and a half mark of this podcast. Appreciate everybody checking out the podcast. I am just putting the finishing touches on the pre-recorded version of the podcast that will drop within the next couple of hours or so. So make sure you guys keep your eyes out for that if you guys want to hear even more in-depth breakdowns of these fights that I just went over for you guys. And then obviously throughout fight week, you guys know that I have a ton of live streams. We're going to be doing the Propping You Up show with me and Cody Saftik tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then Friday, we have the Ultimate Weigh-In show. I'm still trying to round out that crew. Just needed a last person to hop in to finish off that cast. I do have some 2 good guys already lined up for you guys, but I don't want to announce it yet until I get the full cast together. Speaking of cast, the UFC 264 version of the Ultimate Weigh-In show will probably be the best one I've ever done because I have a banger of a cast put together. I just need one more guy that I'm waiting to hear back from, but I have a very good cast coming up for you guys that have not been on the show as of yet, but I guarantee that you guys will enjoy who I have coming up. Appreciate you guys as always. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Lock and I play. I already told you guys I'm on Charles Rosa at -170 over Justin Jaynes, who I don't believe deserves to be in the UFC. And I am yet to make my dog of the night choice yet. I'm still waiting to see how lines pan out, but I should have that locked up by tomorrow or the day after. No rushing, just waiting for my spot. Appreciate the love. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, for the for Propping You Up. Excuse me, with me and Cody. Have a good night, y'all.